Welcome back, class. Today we're going to be looking at Stormy again, Waiting for Stormy, that excerpt from the story about this horse that's about to give birth and have a new baby horse. Now, if you remember here, boy, that was told from first person. Opal used the words like I, we, my in there. And this story was told from third person. We use those words like he, she, they as we convey the story. So, first person point of view, like in here, boy, it relates to the narrator's experience. We're getting their perspective, their ideas on things. But third person point of view can describe multiple people's experiences. Just like we have in this one, we hear Maureen and what she's kind of thinking in her head. We also hear what Paul is also doing with his daydream. So remember, a third person, the narrator is kind of like a spectator rather than the participant in the story. We're describing the actions, thoughts, and feelings of Paul and Maureen in different times and places. The third person narrator, we can also reveal things about a character that the character himself or herself might not even realize. So like in this example, they might not have realized that they were daydreaming because they were so wrapped up in their dreams, but we as the narrator in third person know that that's what they were doing. Now, I'm going to read page 6 for us. And while I do it, I want you to think about our third person narration. So let me zoom in for us on page 6 right here. The day at school seemed never ending. Maureen answered questions like a robot. She heard her own voice say, Christopher Columbus was one of the first men who believed the world was round. So he went east by sailing west. Very good, Maureen. You may sit down. But Maureen remained standing, staring fixedly at the map over the blackboard. Her mind suddenly went racing across the world and backward in time to a tall-masted ship. Not the one that Columbus sailed, but the one that brought the ponies to Acetega. And she saw a great wind come up. And she watched it slap the ship onto the reef and crack it open like the shell of an egg. And she saw the ponies spewed in the sea. And she heard them thrashing and screaming in all the wreckage. And one looked just like Misty. I said, the teacher's voice cut through the dream, you may sit down, Maureen. Now, one reason that third-person point of view is useful here is that the author wants to show that Maureen doesn't hear her teacher. If this scene was narrated in the first-person point of view from Maureen's point of view, then the author couldn't include paragraph 2. We couldn't include this right here because Maureen's so wrapped up in the daydream she doesn't hear her teacher speak. So in third person, the author can show Maureen's distraction more effectively using our third-person point of view. Now, we're going to look at paragraphs 6 through 11 again. We're going to also dive down into how third-person point of view helps us understand this story. In Paul's room, an oral examination was about to take place. We'll begin alphabetically, Miss Oogly announced. Question number 1, she said in her crisp voice. With all books closed, explain to the class which is older, the earth or the sea, and where the first forms of life appeared. We'll begin with Teddy Appleyard. Teddy stood up, pointing to his blood-spotched handkerchief he held to his nose. He was promptly excused. Now then, Paul Beebe, you are next. Dead silence. We'll begin, the teacher raised her voice, with Paul B. And she stretched his name out like a rubber band. But even then, it didn't reach him. He was not there in the little white schoolhouse at all. In his mind, he was back at Pony Ranch, and Misty had broken out of her stall and gone tearing down the marsh. And in his fancy, he saw the colt being born, and while it was all wet and new, it was sucked slowly down into the miry bog. There was no sound, no whimper at all, just the wind squeaking through the grasses. Now, how does this help us with third-person narration? What benefits or pauses do we have based on this third-person narration? Now, if Maureen was narrating our classroom, it was first person in Maureen, she wouldn't know anything at all that's going on in Paul's room. So we actually couldn't hear any of these things that happened because it would just be focused on Maureen. Also, on page 7, if Paul was narrating the story, then we would not have heard any of the stuff the teacher was talking about. We wouldn't know about Teddy's blood-spotched handkerchief because remember, Paul is so wrapped up in his daydream, he doesn't hear that teacher talking to him. And so this third-person narration really gives us this different perspective of what's going on in the classroom. And we can see other things around instead of just our own character, instead of just Paul. Now, third-person point of view can be useful as an author because we can include these different viewpoints, we can include these different people instead of focusing on just one. So third person point of view can be useful when we want to share more than one point of view, or we want to talk about more than one person and not just be wrapped up in one. Third person point of view allows that author to include different scenes and settings that could be happening at the same time. And so that's why I like third person point of view sometimes, is if we really want to focus on a broader subject or on more people or on different settings. Whereas remember, if it's first person like Opal and Here Boy, we had to just focus on that Winn-Dixie store and just on what Opal's seeing. Whereas if it was third person, we might have got the manager's perspective on why he was so frustrated. Maybe the manager had just set up this brand new display from headquarters and he was shocked after his 20 hours of work were now suddenly destroyed. We don't know because we just focus on Opal. In this story with Misty, we know more of what's going on and their distractions and how it affects the classroom. So that is how we analyze a third person point of view, class. Good luck, and I'll see you guys later.